the Agile Austin coaching meetup. And my name is Sid Markle, and I am one of the co-hosts for the meetup. So if you've been to the meetup before, you may be familiar with me or with Lonnie, who has helped host in the past. But we also have two new lovely people who have joined us to help co-host this meeting, Fran and Samira. Fran, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Francisca Ramoni. I'm one of the hosts here in Agile Meetup. By trade, I'm a professional trainer, transformational leader, and a coach. I also do family life education. So that's briefly about me. And I live in Dallas, Texas.
And we're so happy to have you. Thank you, Fran. Samira.
Hi, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone. My name is Samira Akpan, and I live in Central West Texas, San Angelo. I work in digital transformation strategy in the pharma industry. I've been in pharma for about 21 years. I've been lurking in this meetup for quite some time, so I'm really excited to be able to volunteer and give back.
And we're super glad to have you. So that's us. We host this once a month, the first Monday of the month, typically. And our goal is to really build up the Agile community for Agile coaches who are looking to improve their skills. We have monthly conversations on a wide range of topics that can be applied to Agile coaching competencies. Also, we like to just set the expectations for what you can expect. We will as co-hosts, we will help facilitate the conversations, and we encourage you to engage in either on video or with questions at the end. And if you ever need anything else to make this a more comfortable meetup for you, just let us know in a direct message in the chat, and we'll try to make that possible. So that's what you can expect from this meetup. We're part of a larger system within Agile Austin, which is a 501c6 here in Austin, Texas. We are looking to connect people and foster professional growth through education and networking and other community events. And some of those other events that exist are an Agile at Scale meetup, a book club. We have a Leaders SIG and a Lean Kanban SIG. So those are some of the systems that exist that we're part of. We also have a couple of sponsors, Agile Velocity and Loria Coaching, which is easy to say. And we thank our sponsors very, very much for their sponsorship. As part of being an Agile Austin member, if you happen to be one, there are education discounts, and Agile Velocity has offered this discount. So if anybody is interested in this, you can grab the code here with your phone or seek me later and I can get it to you. All right. Something that we're very excited that is coming up in March, which is really soon, is the Keep Austin Agile Conference. It will be both virtual and in person this year. So if you're in the Austin area, even if you're up in Dallas, come on down. We're going to have a great time. And we have a great lineup of speakers. Bob Galen is the keynote this year. And we want to thank our sponsors here as well. We just took on a couple of new ones, IC Agile being one of them. But we thank our sponsors for that as well. So now I'm going to hand over to Fran, who's going to introduce you to our speakers for tonight.
So much, Sid. So thank you for joining this meetup. It's very exciting, and we'll get a lot of information from these experts. So I'll start introducing the young lady, Anne Janemi, doctor. So Anne Jademi is an Agile coach, a transformation strategic and leader, change agent, trainer, advisor, public speaker, passionate about leading change and continuous improvement. A certified Scrum professional and SAFe program consultant, active member of the Scrum at Scale, IC Agile, SAFe, and Scrum Alliance. And I've worked with Dr. here for a while, and so we're gonna hear a lot from the experts, a lot of wealth of knowledge, and just listen in and just absorb. All right. So, Dr. Ann, did I miss anything, or is there anything you want to add before I move on to our gentleman?
No, that's it. Thank you, doctor. Nice to
You're
be here.
welcome.
Yeah.
You're welcome. So this gentleman, Divine Damola, I call him our gold partner. During our safe training, he was our go-to person for all the questions and all the issues we had. And so he's a renowned expert in implementing Agile and Scrum with over a decade of experience as a release trained engineer and Agile coach. He has a proven track record of leading organizations through transformative change, optimizing processes, and maximizing efficiency. As you see him like this, he's a sought after public speaker. So if you want any public speakers, please reach out. He's a safe practitioner and a consultant. As I say, he's a SPC and a co-founder of Agile Disciple. He's recognized internationally for expertise. Expert insights and actionable strategies empower audience to drive change and achieve results. And when we say he empowers audience, he even empowers us, because both of us are in Agile Disciples, and he always pushing the agenda and making sure that all of us are in line with our goals and our vision and our mission for our organization. So I just want to welcome our speakers today, and just sit tight, put your seatbelt on, and over to you guys.
Thank you, Doc.
Thank you, doctor, and good
welcome.
afternoon, everybody. You know, when you hear about yourself, you're like, "Is this me?" No, you know, I'm not like that, but all the same, it is what it is. I'm so happy to have been here, and also thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to speak with great minds, people of like minds, and also share the little experience, and at the same time, learn from one another as we go. Some of the things that we could do today is, apart from the fact that I like it when we make things conversational rather than having a talking heads and all that, because one of the reasons why we're here is not because we could have known better than you or something, but it's because you want to learn some of the things we have gone through, and at the same time, we would like to learn from you as well. We look forward to having a fantastic less than an hour presentation, conversation, and learning opportunity as well. Doctor?
Yeah, so good to have you all here today, and hopefully at the end of today's section, we plan to make this very interactive. So it's not just me and Divine talking. We hope to get a lot of feedback from all of you, contributions and participation. That is how we like to, facilitate our events. Typically, we want people to interact. So we'll go ahead now and start. So we will be starting. Divine, can you share your screen now? So.
Hey, I'm going to share my screen right away.
Okay, cool.
First and foremost, I would like us to quickly do something together for a few minutes. Let's go to menti.com. I'm sure that this is a tool that most of you are actually used to. Am I sharing the right screen? Yeah.
Yes.
I'd like you to go to menti.com and type in
46732192. And I'll put it in the chat as well.
The question is right on the screen. If your growing up was a movie, what would be the title? I was actually very deliberate when I brought this up, because some of the time it's as though, oh God, you want to do several things as a child and you're being held back and all. But what would be the title if your growing up was a movie? One person just dropping chaos. Go ahead. Laughter.
That's good.
You make it awkward. Love. Thank you. Adventures in babysitting. Uncertainty. It's a lot. Community.
Okay.
Family. while we're populating it, the person that wrote chaos, do you want to say something? Just give us a brief. Why did you title it chaos? Hello? Or any
You are
other
breaking up just a little bit. Could you repeat that
Yeah,
question?
thank you. I was wondering, the person that said chaos, if you can hear me loud and clear, why did you say chaos? Or any other person that populated any movie title here, why did you choose this title?
Chaos? Well, do you have an extra 30 years to go through my childhood? No. Let's just say that in a good functional family, you have parents that have some idea of what they're doing, and some people are less prepared for that challenge than others. And if you have exuberant people like me as kids, chaos is the ultimate outcome.
And also, anyway, children that I would say also more of one, as in there's no boring moment around. I'm sure there was no boring moment around you as well. There was just always something going on.
Any other person can just pick whatever you might have put out here. Go ahead. Tell us the reason why you chose that.
Well,
Go
yeah,
ahead.
go on, Lauren. Go on.
No, I was just I think I put uniquely awkward just because, growing up, I just never quite felt like I fit in. And as an adult, I'm like realizing that all the things that I saw as weaknesses were actually strengths, but I just didn't have the courage to kind of grow into them. So it was definitely interesting as a kid, though.
Okay.
I'll just pick two more.
I
So
have one.
Richard,
I see one in the chat that says adventures in babysitting for me, because I was the oldest and had little brothers. So always had a lot of drama around taking care of them. Yeah, that sounds very interesting.
we have somebody's hand raised, Suruchi.
Okay,
Yes.
Suruchi.
So I have added protected bubble because
Oh,
I have grown up in pretty protective family. My dad and mom, they were always protecting me, like my studies, looking after that. If I'm going outside, watching me all the time, if I'm safe. So now if I look back, oh, I was just living in protected bubble. After that, once I got married, everything changed, of course. But before that, I felt like, yes, I was in protected shell. It could be protected shell or bubble. But I'm proud of being raised like that. And because of that culture, I'm able to raise my child in similar way. I know that little bit makes their life tougher when they go out of that shell. But still, till they become teenager, I would love to grow her up like that.
Thank you very much, Richie. Now, the thought now is this. I like it that you're building up your kids in that manner. Protected bubble, but I'm sure that you would have been doing it in love. How would you have been? Probably you find yourself in a space where that bubble is not being done in love, and probably not to make you be who you are today, the negative part of the bubble. That's one of the major reasons why we want to have this conversation today, looking at it in the terms of psychological safety. Now, what comes to me is this: when we which is leading to the second question, and we're going to dive immediately after you respond to this. In one word, what does psychological safety mean to you? If you hear about psychological safety, what comes to your mind? Sure. Let's populate it as we get it. Freedom, courage, vulnerability, healthy environments. That's why I mentioned the protected bubble being negative, healthy environment. I like that. let's populate more. We have only 10 responses, now 11. No gossip. Mm. Wow. Stability.
What's going on?
Oh, wow. Thank you so much. It's a lot. Thank you so much. I'll just pick about two. I would like to pick the word grace. When you picked grace, what did you mean by grace?
I put grace. I think you're giving people grace, right? You realize at the end of the day that we're all human as well. So that was another word I put. So just knowing that every day you come into work, it should be a safe space, especially this remote world, right? My safe space is my home, yet that's where I work too. So it's making sure you give people that grace on the day-to-day task.
Someone else wants to say something before we get into our presentation.
Chat says, speak up without fear.
Mm.
I'd like to know more about the person that puts no gossip. What's behind that? Like no gossip within teams or organization?
For this one, it's mostly about
Okay.
the team aspect. So like your manager doesn't talk about you to your coworkers. You don't talk about your manager to your coworkers. Like they're slow or they're incompetent in a certain area. And I think it just creates a healthy dynamic within the entire culture where people feel that they're respected and they're valued. And if you do say anything about them, you just say something nice about the person. So I think that's kind of the whole notion behind it.
Okay. I like that. That's another way of looking at it as well. That's really cool. And I also see in the chat that speak up without fear of consequences. That's really cool as well.
Having said that, a professor in Harvard, Amy Edison, said something about psychological safety. He defined psychological safety as a shared belief. When Grace was mentioned earlier, she said that it's not about being nice. Psychological safety is not about being nice, but having a shared belief that it is safe to take risk. You could make a mistake. You could, you're just having your ideas without the fear of having consequences of whatever decision or whatever actions you have taken. There's no fear of consequences. That is how she describes psychological safety. So I will stop sharing my screen now. Where is the stop button? Yeah, stop sharing my screen now, and we can now deep dive on what exactly we would be looking out to, what we would be talking about today, and what the expectation we will be having today as well. Which already mentioned, we are both co-founders of Agile Disciples USA, and we're talking about psychological safety. And today, one of the first things we want to look at is actually what is psychological safety. We already talked about why we're here, what is psychological safety, why psychological safety, signs. Can you see my screen, please?
Yes, we see your screen.
Okay. Signs of absence of psychological safety, signs of absence of safety in an organization, how to ensure psychological safety in your next meeting. In the next few minutes, we are going to be getting into this, and that, Doctor, you can fire away.
Okay. So you're here to hear about psychological safety in teams and also in your organization. So remember that the organization is a big one, and within an organization, you have all the multiple teams, or you can even look at it as a system. So psychological safety is very, very important in everything. So in an organization, it's important. Within the team, it's also very, very important. And like Divine just said, we will be covering what it is, why, and then signs of the absence. So if it's not there, how can you tell that it's not there? And how are you able to tell that it is there in an organization or within the team that you're currently working with? And how can you even enable this in your meetings with your teams and also your organization? So we will be covering all this. So let's start with, what is psychological safety? Okay, so if we look at that Mentimeter, we had a lot of great inputs. I saw words like transparency, I saw words like trust, I saw vulnerability, and then one word that stood out for me is that no gossip, because I haven't heard that before. And I totally agree with that as well, because all that is different ways you can define psychological safety. So psychological safety really is feeling safe, being able to feel safe, to take interpersonal risk, being able to speak up, being able to disagree openly, like being able to surface concerns without any fear of any negative repercussion or pressure to sugarcoat any bad news. So you have an idea, or somebody raises an idea and this idea is not good, instead of you to be quiet about it and because you don't want to lose your job or you don't want to be embarrassed, you speak up. So psychological safety is being able to show and employ oneself without any fear of negative consequences of self-image. So you are bold enough to come out and say, yes, this thing, I disagree with you. Can I ask for more clarity? Or can I ask for help? Or maybe you're struggling in something and you are able to ask for help. All that is psychological safety, is asking difficult questions, asking challenging questions, confronting issues, giving and receiving feedback. All this is what is psychological safety. Yes, Surushi?
Yes, and thank you so much for sharing the information of what is exactly psychological safety means. Now, I would like to share some light on
Yes,
how
please.
we should be able to disagree confidently. But then,
Okay.
what I have observed is, if we openly share disagreement on any thought or any idea, that may be perceived as a negative person. Oh, so you didn't like it, you are not appreciating what we have done, so it may be perceived as a negative comment. So how to deal with that?
Yeah, and that's all part of what we are going to be covering today as well. So we will cover how to go about it, how to ask the right questions, not to put someone down or make them feel that they are not, like in a condensate way, like how to make them feel appreciated, that yes, this idea you're bringing, even though the idea is not good, I appreciate it, but then you go ahead and give your feedback. So we will be looking at all that. So right now, we're trying to understand exactly what it is, okay? So we have these 4 quadrants of psychological safety. So we have the learner safety, where it's safe for you to discover, it's safe for you to ask questions. And what you just did just now, Suruchi, is also part of it. You ask questions, you're bold enough to try to know more. You ask questions that will help you to experiment. You learn from your mistakes. So if you are working in an organization where you are not able to learn from your mistakes, then that means there's no psychological safety there, because you should be able to fail forward. You should be able to be comfortable knowing that yes, even when I make this mistake, I won't be punished for it, because we are all work in progress, right? You should be able to look for new opportunities, and all that falls under the learner's safety quadrant of psychological safety. And then we also have the challenger safety, whereby you should be safe enough to challenge the status quo. Like, I can give a story. One time, I used to be a project manager in an organization, and an idea came up. The idea, I know from onset that it was going to flop. Like, this thing will not work, but I couldn't voice it out, because I know that the person that brought that idea is someone you can't challenge. The whole environment was very, very tense, whereby you can't challenge some certain people. So we had to keep quiet, even though we know that this thing was going to fail. And yes, it did fail. So when there's psychological safety within an organization, you will be able to challenge the status quo. You will be able to say, I don't think this thing will work. This idea you're bringing up, will fail. And these are all the things I have to back me up. Like you should be able to speak up. You should be able to express ideas. You should be able to challenge any ideas that come that with all your experience and your skills, that this thing, looking at all the data, that this thing will not work. You should be able to, and all this helps as well, because if you're not able to do that, the organization can be innovative. If everybody is just going with one idea that somebody brings up, okay, you should be able to identify the changes and expose problems. You should be able to say this thing down the road is going to cause some problems for us. And that is for the challenger safety. We also have the collaborator safety, which is another quadrant.
If
Yeah.
you continue on the collaborator safety,
Okay.
one of the things when you talked about the challenger safety, I think this came to my mind that I think psychological safety has a lot to do with culture. On the challenger safety, probably because of the culture I'm from, I'm actually from Nigeria, West Africa. I think we have a lot of unsafety challenger kind of thing there, in the sense that even in our homes, for instance, you cannot challenge status quo. Once something is the family tradition, everybody believes that is how it's supposed to be. That is actually some of the challenges I had when I came into United States, trying to work with my child on it. I don't know if I'm making sense to it. I'm an African father, and I tell you something, you don't ask question, obey before complain. And once I'm talking to my son, once I'm talking to Jordan, I say, Jordan, I want you to do this. I said, why? Who are you to ask me why? You cannot, I found out that that kind of culture you're coming from, what you have been built with, what you have been trained with, you even pass it on to others and all that, because you didn't learn right. The fact that something worked does not make it right, kind of, in quotes. So challenger safety is actually, and psychological safety generally has to do with culture. So let's have that in mind. Doctor, you can continue.
Yeah.
Sorry, I interrupted you.
Oh, no, that's fine. So we also have the collaborator one. That quadrant has to do more with how do you collaborate with your co-workers, with people within the organization? Do you engage in an unconstrained way? And just like Divine just said, this also has to do with the culture. There are some organizational culture where there's a lot of boundaries. You can't go outside some of those boundaries to have some conversations or collaboration. They are very strict on some of those things. How do you interact with your colleagues? Is it very uptight, or are you all open with each other? Do you give each other feedbacks? Do you receive feedbacks also as well, very openly and not biased? Do you have mutual access? Do you maintain any open dialogue? Do you guys have real conversations, like hard conversations about things that your team or the organization is working on, without anyone feeling offended or feeling spited? Do you foster constructive debates? So collaborator safety should be all about making sure that you're interacting and collaborating within the organization in a very safe, healthy, respectful way that everybody should feel accepted. And then I would just pause here. If you have anything to add to this, maybe this is something that you are familiar with as you are working with your organization or with your teams. Before we go to the last one.
Doctor, I'm sure you're not asking me, right?
No, I'm actually trying it out.
Over to anyone here.
Okay, so we can go on. We have the inclusion safety. This one, it's all about inclusion. How do you feel included? Do you know that you're valued within your team or within the organization? Do they make you feel valued? And also, do you make other people within your team or within the organization feel valued? How do you treat each other? Are you fair, or you're biased? Or you just have a very close mind about what your team is doing or the organization, or is that how the organization also is? And just like Divine said, the culture, because some culture can be very close-minded as well. Do you feel that your experience and your ideas, they matter? And do you also feel that other people's experience and also their ideas matter? Do you include them when you're having conversations? And do you make them, regardless of title or any position, even if they're your junior or they're your senior within the organization or within your team, do you make them feel that, yes, I'm the boss and you shouldn't talk to me that way, or we have that boundary is just always there? Or you include them, you make them feel very safe, very respected, and very accepted? Do you openly contribute and also allow other people to openly contribute? All these are the 4 quadrants of psychological safety. So these are all the different ways that you can see psychological safety within an organization and also within a team. Okay.
On the other side of it.
So I feel that one of the reasons why organization actually started the diversity and inclusion that we have these days, so that everybody could be well represented, and at the same time, you also want to feel valued no matter what culture, wherever you're from, whatever language you speak, and all. Comment from anybody as we go on. Comment, questions for now? Any addition from anyone?
Yeah. No question. So let's move on to why we have to do this. Why is it very important for us to have psychological safety within our teams and also within the organization?
You know, while I was talking about diversity and inclusion, Doctor, one of the things that before now, organizations were actually more concerned, very, very concerned about safety measure. When you're working in a construction site, use your helmets, wear the gear, more concerned about physical well-being of the staff and all those kind of nice things, which was nice. But some decades ago, a decade ago, a lot was on mental health. Now, thinking about the mental health, what is it that you're paying me salary and you are at the same time torturing me? I don't feel safe. I don't have psychological safety all the time. I come to work, I feel you're going to fire me the next day. There was a research that was conducted by Google and Microsoft about 2015, I believe. And one of the major thing that was being looked at is what makes a team very effective. What are the things that make the things very effective? They wanted to see the top 5. Number 5 was impact. The team members think work matters and create change. So, oh yeah, it's nice. Then number 4 was meaning. The work somehow make meaning, align with their values and all that. And the third one was structure and clarity. I know where I'm going, you have explained it and all that. Then number 2 was dependability. Members get things done on time and meet Google's high bar and all nice things. But the number 1 that stood out is actually the psychological safety we're talking about. When the team members feel safe, when they feel they can take risk, when they feel they can be vulnerable, they can learn without being judged, they can we always say this as agilists, and also one of the things that I always try to imbibe into organization is opportunity for teams and members to take risks so that they can fail forward. I know that creates a lot of opportunities for team members to be able to learn faster and get better. While we're saying this, I saw some things on the charts that you were dropping the link for. Yeah, I just saw a message in the chat. With all the tech layoff, do you know of any recent research on employee psychological safety? What companies rank high on this? Fantastic question. We could quickly address this as soon as we are rounding up, but fantastic question to check the the data on this and all that, which we'll get back to on this. However, a lot of layoff going on, of course, you would find out that nobody feels safe. Everybody, I've been with the teams and all that, and everybody is so panicky and all that. But what role do you play as either a team leader, a scrum master, a manager? Now, what role do you play? How do you still want the organization to to show themselves to other people that won't be laid off that don't worry, we've got you. And how do you even do it when you're the one they have sent to go and deliver the message? I remember years ago, I dropped this in the chat. I was in an organization that seemed really, really, really safe. And you know, all this happens maybe in the kind of culture that in the kind of culture, and you have some organization here as well. I wrote an article which I dropped in the chat about being in the organization where I felt really unsafe. For you to travel, probably you want to go on PTO and all that is as though you need you need permission from, you won't be granted. You can't even be granted. You can't even think of it. You can't even, for you to get paid, it's like for you to get paid, it's like you have not worked. So why would you get, you know, the way we get paid here, and on Thursday, your Thursday night, Friday morning, you get your money without asking anybody. There is as though you definitely have to beg for your money. I don't think it doesn't sound normal to some of you as you're listening, but some people that have been in that kind of place, you would understand what I'm saying. This led me to writing that article I posted, and one of the major things that should be most important to you is actually your mental health. You choose you first if you find yourself in a place that seems very not unsafe. You choose yourself first if you find yourself in a place where you seem unvalued, because your mental health is more important. Before we go on, I want to know, has anybody ever found himself in a place where seems to be not to be psychologically safe?
So,
Anybody?
yeah, go on.
Yeah,
Was someone speaking?
was somebody saying something? Sorry.
Okay, I wanted to add that we are all agilists in this meeting. And why psychological safety? Because as agilists, that's one of the things that we should always make sure is one of the culture that is right. You know, because one of the agile values is individuals and interactions over processes and tools. So it's not all about the processes and the tools, it's all about having that culture that help people to dialogue, to have respect for each other, to be able to act and react, to be able to analyze and solve things in a very healthy way. So it's an environment. So it's that culture where the team can actually collaborate effectively. So it's and that helps, because if it's an organization, even if they are doing agile, imagine a daily scrum where everybody comes, everybody's so uptight, people can't even speak their minds, they just come and they go. That team is already heading for failure. But if there's psychological safety within the team, you will see that they will interact, they will collaborate, they will be able to troubleshoot things easily. They'll feel like a team, versus even though they are working as a team, they're still emotionally and technically silo, right? Because they don't feel that connection is not there. They are not vulnerable with each other. They are not transparent about what's going on. So you also want to make sure that, especially in an agile environment, that you have a culture that encourages psychological safety.
You know, but I still want to know from those in the house, have you seen yourself, have you walked in a place that seems very not to be safe? You mind to kindly mute, raise your hand, whatever works for you. Just that experience. Let's know if you have. Share that experience with us.
You've got one raised hand, Divine. I don't know if you can see that. Sonia, I think.
Go ahead, Sonia. Go ahead, you can unmute.
I've worked in an environment that wasn't psychologically safe, a manager that was very, shall we say, aggressively, I don't know, she's a bit of a tyrant, so. And I didn't stay there for very long. I quit and moved on.
Nice. I like it that you have to choose yourself. The other person, please. Any other person? Trust me, one of the reasons why I said that I like that is, you know, some people find themselves that they find themselves so loyal that I would say loyal to the fault that they kind of have the Stockholm syndrome. I don't know if you've ever heard, if you know about that Stockholm syndrome. If you do, can you put yes? And if you don't, can you put no in the chat? If you do know about the Stockholm syndrome, yep. No, she said no. Yes, Sonia, yes. Yes, yes. Great. Oh, great. I'm happy many people know about it. For those that don't know, this actually, I think, happened in 1973 or so in Sweden when those armed robbers kidnapped some of the people in the bank, some of the ladies in the bank, and those ladies fell in love with the armed robbers. Stockholm syndrome is when you kind of find yourself giving excuses for the person that is abusing you. So the manager is really, really kind of crazy, like you said, but you find yourself so still remain loyal to her. You cannot say bye to her. I think that's crazy. I like what you said, Laurie. Imposter syndrome to cause us to undervalue our own work. I agree with you 100%. Okay.
That's true.
Doctor, you want to drive on for me?
Okay. So let's talk about the signs of absence and presence. I know we had one already, which is the fact that there was no psychological safety and she had to leave. So when there's high turnover, most of the time is because there's no psychological safety in that place. When people just keep leaving a team or leaving an organization, it's because they don't feel safe. It's because they feel they don't, that they don't feel respected, they don't feel valued. So high performing teams need the psychological safety, and how to create it. We're going to cover all those skills, which is one of them, collaboration and the teams, and then also the fact that high performing teams, we need this psychological safety. So that will be what we'll be covering next. But let's look at the psychological danger. One is fear of admitting mistakes. If in an organization or within a team, you are not able to admit mistakes, or you have that fear within you, once you make a mistake, you start having a lot of anxiety, then there's no psychological safety in that place. Or blaming others is also another one, because you become very defensive. You just always don't, because you don't know what will come next, right? Oh, this mistake has happened, so you want to push the blame on someone else because you're scared. That means there's no psychological safety. Also, less likely to share different views. So some people just like to dominate all their views and make only their views to count, or their ideas. They don't want it to get challenged. That is also lack of psychological safety. And then common knowledge effect is also another one, where they just have just that knowledge and they are not ready to, they live like in a box, right? They are not ready to have an open mind about other things. So psychological safety is when there's psychological safety there will be no fear. You will say, oh, I'm sorry, I just made this mistake. Like you're very comfortable even admitting your mistakes. You're not going to be punished. You're not going to be embarrassed. You learn from your failure. When the psychological safety, you feel, instead of pushing the blame on others, you openly say, yes, I know I just failed, but I'm learning. I'm a work in progress. You admit it and not blame others. Then you're also, everyone is also openly sharing ideas. Your ideas are welcome. You see, in those kind of organizations where there's psychological safety, they're always retrospecting, how are we doing? How are you? And they really mean it. How are you? Do you feel comfortable with this work that you're currently doing? Where are you in the progress? Can you share ideas on how we can improve? And they're just very open to take all these ideas and make sure that everybody's voice is being heard. Then they're also very innovative. They have better innovations and also decision making, because I'm very sure that if out of all of us that are in this room right now, 32 of us, if we put all our minds together, we would definitely create something really great, right? Versus just one person's idea. So a lot of times when you pull people's ideas together, you make them feel safe and they bring out all their ideas. That company will be very innovative. And also the decision making is not just based on one person making all the decisions, but allowing people to make decisions. You're decentralizing the decisions, which is also making the organization to be more agile. So people are not just working in silos, but now they're collaborating. They're really interacting and coming up with ideas on how to improve the organization or their teams. Okay.
But I think I made something out when Laurie put in the chat, imposter syndrome too will cause us to value our worth. My thought was going into psychological safety. I think, which I really think that psychological safety brings about you to feel like an imposter because it does not give you the confidence. But Laurie, do you want to mention what you intended when you posted that? If you don't
Yeah,
mind.
so we're talking about just the feeling that you're not enough, you're not good enough, or that you have your position, you're working in your field or your particular job, but maybe you have misrepresented yourself, or you don't have the skills or qualities that it takes to do that, even though it's probably not necessarily true. That can really set us back, and we tend to let people maybe take advantage of that, like it's a vulnerability, right? So I might not feel like I can stand up for myself because somewhere inside I'm thinking I don't know this as well as somebody else, or I don't have as much clout, or so yeah, that's really kind of what I'm trying to get across with that.
And that's very true. I completely agree with you on that. A lot of times when there's imposter syndrome, you will definitely not be able to stand up for yourself as well. You get disrespected and you accept that disrespect because you're feeling it that you are not good enough. So someone can just make you feel you don't have that worth, and then you gladly take it. But when there's no imposter syndrome and you know who you are, most of the time, and you're in an environment where there's no psychological safety, you walk away because you know your what. You know who you are. You know that I have this thing and I'm not comfortable being in an environment where I'm not even being myself. I can't utilize all the skills and experiences that I have. I'm always being shut down. I'm always being disrespected. I'm always being abused. I rather leave. Okay. But if you are in that kind of environment where they appreciate you and you value yourself, your best will definitely come up and you will enjoy what you're doing. Like you feel your team is like family, because I've worked with organizations where there was no psychological safety. And I did not feel that I belonged at all. It was just a job for me. Like I come, do my thing, and I leave. And I've also worked with teams and organizations where there was psychological safety. I was always looking forward to the next Monday because we all became like family. You go to work and you know that you're contributing to something that someone values. You know that your voice is being heard. You know that even when you make a mistake, you won't be rebuked for it. Instead, there's some grace extended to you. You always want to stay there. And you begin to have this bond between yourselves within the team and the organization and you see some of those kind of organizations, you see some of them stay there like 20 years, 30 years. They don't want to leave because nobody likes to leave a good thing, right? When it's good, they hang in there. But when you see people leaving a place, that is a sign. A lot of times high turnover tells you that yes, this place is is not good, and the culture needs to be changed. Okay, so how are we going to ensure psychological safety in our next meeting? How are we going to ensure that we can bring in psychological safety to our organizations, to our teams, to help them to become more agile, to have that agile mindset, because this is all about working in an agile way. Okay.
So before we dive into that, for us to know how we want to ensure that, um Kelly asked the question that I mentioned earlier, and she asked, where is it again? Oh my God, Divine. Okay. Okay. She asked, with all the tech layoff, do you know of any recent research on employee psychological safety and what companies rank on this? I'm not sure I have that information. I'm not sure I know what company ranks the highest or what the employee psychological, the data on employee psychological safety. But one thing I know is that I've been in an environment where a lot of people were being laid off. Yes, last year, and it's something that did really affected my teams, and it's something that I have to imbibe some of the things Doctor is going to talk about now, that we have been discussing a little on how to ensure psychological safety in the meetings, and also with relationship with even the leaders, because sometimes you find out that the leadership are not, they don't even look, they don't even feel safe themselves by the time all that is happening. And it's a sad situation, but it is what it is sometimes. But how do you navigate you as an individual when this is happening around you? Doctor, do you want to continue?
Okay, cool. So how are you going to ensure this? First of all, remember that psychological safety is not something that you do at once. You have to build people's trust. You have to get them to a place where they trust you enough to be vulnerable. They trust you enough to know that if I say this thing, I'm not going to be put in trouble. So start by acknowledge them, start by appreciating them, be accessible, ask questions like, what can I do for you? And also remember that when they come to you during their vulnerable time, maybe they've made a mistake or they have one challenge or the other, don't rebuke them. Make them feel that, yes, learn from your mistakes. So trust is the big one. Get them to a place where they can trust you. Another one is acknowledge limits of knowledge. So this situation is over my head. I don't know what to do. Ask for help. Invite participation. Like, are we missing anything? Does anyone have any other suggestions? That is another way to make them feel comfortable to voice out. And retrospective helps a lot with this. You can ask them questions like, how are we? How do you feel being part of this team? Do you think that your voice is being heard? Do you feel respected? Hold people accountable for their transgressions. Don't speak to her like that. That's not okay. Things, like that's another thing. Make sure that you let those that are coming into your meetings to bully others to stop it. Like, you have to not let one person or two people come into your meetings to keep bullying other people, because if they keep bullying people and getting away with it, the other ones will be going into their shell and they'll be losing trust in you, especially if you are maybe like a scrum master or an agile coach in that organization. You want to make sure that you hold them accountable for their transgressions, set boundaries, things like, if I miss the intubation, I will need you to take over. Like, make sure that you set boundaries. Be willing to display fallibility. I missed the diagnosis. Let's reset. Like, if you fail, let them feel comfortable knowing fully well that they're failing forward. Okay. Use direct languages. Things like, Jessica, please start chest compression now. Okay. And then also make sure that you highlight your failures as opportunities. What can we learn from that near miss? Don't rebook, learn from your failures, make the team to trust you, and then make them to feel comfortable, help them to grow gradually as you make them feel very comfortable, and keep retrospecting as you go, keep retrospecting. How did we do 2 weeks ago? How did we do last month? Are we improving? Do you feel much comfortable? Do you think you're in a better place right now? Are you okay? Can you provide more suggestions? All this will help them to begin to loosen up and begin to feel more, like the collaboration will increase. And you can use a lot of tools to do some of this, like all the collaboration tools that we have to do your retrospectives, capture thoughts, take away those notes, and then keep revisiting them until you begin to see a pattern that the team is now at a very, very comfortable place where they are speaking more. Okay. Let me pause here. I don't know if Divine has something to add to this as well.
You have really said it for Doctor, and we are almost out of time. It's time for me to just say thank you for the opportunity once again, and want to know if anyone in the audience would have any question, comment, contribution for us. You can just unmute and go ahead.
Yeah, any questions, or if you want to post them in chat, now's your chance to jump on and ask any deeper questions.
I have
Yes,
a question
Ruchi.
asked earlier in chat. Sorry, who is
Oh.
Okay,
the other?
go on.
And this is Suruchi. Can you share some additional light on what you are trying to suggest about, okay, this is how you can share the feedback so that they will not perceive you as negative feedback holder upon sharing disagreement. Can you please share more thoughts on that side, Anne?
One of the things I've actually done is, like Doctor mentioned earlier, is having retrospective. And when we have this retrospective, we want to make sure we create a safe zone. Apart from having this retrospective that is a safe zone, sometimes the retrospective could be a blind one where you don't know who might have posted what or who might have said what. But one thing we should note that it takes a lot of courage to speak truth to power. And once you, as either a leader, you are able to help your team have that courage and the confidence, it wouldn't be getting feedback from them wouldn't be an issue. You don't want to just go, yes, ma'am, yes, sir, kind of person. No, you want somebody that is going to ask the right question or ask you the question, and so that to help you to assess where you are and what action you're about to take. Doctor, you want to add to that?
Yes. So I would like to add, there's this thing called the SBI, situation behavior impact, that you can also use to give feedback. So basically what you do is remember that when you're giving feedbacks, don't start from the negative. Don't see someone and then approach them and say you were really bad yesterday. Start by complimenting them. Start giving them all the positive things they've been doing, because a lot of times when you just only give people negative feedbacks, you make them shut down and they will not want to listen to you. So if you have, let's assume you have like 10 negative feedbacks to give, try to look for 20 positive things that that person is doing, no matter how small it is. List all the positive things first, and then you begin to gradually be telling them the negative things. You have gotten them to a point where they know that, yes, oh, I'm good in this, I'm good in that. Okay, good. So they're not just seeing you as just coming to dump and make them feel bad or devalue them, but you still see some good things in them. So I would say, and also choose the right time, because sometimes too, you may go to someone when is not the right time. Like I know I mentioned that when you may have some bullies in your meetings, depending on who that bully is, right? You may not want to call that person out where everybody is. You may need to schedule like a one-on-one with that person, have a personal conversation, try to know where is that coming from, and then let that person understand the impact of coming to a meeting and disrespecting people or bullying people and talking down on people, let that person understand the impact on all the others, that it's not, down the line, it's not going to help the team. So you have to have that, you have to know the right time to approach the conversation. And then also remember that you try to ask clarifying questions too. Try to know the intent, what really is going on. And yes, I like what Dr. Frank just put in the chat. Choose your words as well, because sometimes some people can be very put off by the word that you use from the beginning. So you want to be very careful with that as well. Don't criticize them, especially, like I said, in public, but remember to do that in private. Rebook them in private, but start with all the positive things they've been doing first before you go into the negative things, and you begin to get their trust. Next time they come out in public, they look at you with a different light. They will begin to listen to you, and they begin, like you will be able to connect with them.
Great,
Dr.
great
Wihan.
advice. I will say you have 3 other people who have their hands raised with questions.
Okay.
So I don't know if you can see in the chat thing, you can see where people have raised their hands.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we can
So
see. Joe, you want to go first?
Go, Joe. Okay.
I think that Lori was first. I don't
Okay.
want
Oh,
to take
Very
your
good.
spot.
okay, Laurie.
Okay. Well, and this kind of dovetails with what you were saying. You brought up the point that we cannot collude with others who have these behaviors where they are mistreating people or where they are, creating this culture, this environment of mistrust, and there is no psychological safety. And I've learned this from personal experience where I had a team and I felt like someone was, definitely being kind of abused, talked down to. I think there were some cultural issues there as well. And I had made some attempts to talk to the perpetrator really like privately, like, and they were just not getting it. And it finally came down to at one point that I did feel it was appropriate for me to say something in a public meeting or in a meeting with the group, because for so long we had been putting up with that. Even the person that was being targeted had forgotten that that was not okay. Like they had maybe tried, maybe not tried to change the behavior, but it wasn't until I said, you know what, this, just because we always do it this way, or just because this person is like that, does not mean that they have a right to continue with that. So I felt like it was empowering the whole team to then stand up and go, oh my gosh, yeah, we have been kind of just living with this, and there is an alternative there. So yeah, just giving that idea that, hey, I may not want to have conflict or controversy with you, but I am definitely not going to sit back and just pretend like this is not happening.
Yeah.
So thanks for mentioning that.
Thank you. You're welcome. Okay,
Thank you
Joe.
so much.
Yeah, so what came up for me is I had a situation where it was actually one of the leaders who would constantly break the trust of the team by accepting gossip or by actually eliciting gossip about what's going on in the team. So what would you do as the Agile coach or as the Scrum Master in such an environment?
Okay, Divine, do you want to take that question?
If I hear you correctly, you mentioned the fact that the leader was involved in gossip.
And encouraging gossip.
And
Yes.
encouraging
So how
gossip.
would that be addressed? Yes.
I really feel that that's actually a coaching opportunity, because the deed has been done and the leader has broken the trust already, if I'm correct. So what do you want to do? It's time for you to wear your coaching hat, and like Doctor mentioned, you want to have a one-on-one. Sometimes you even want to look at the root cause of things. When I look at things like this, I see that it could even be unskillful display of sincere concern. What is the root cause? Why are you, what's your intent as a leader that you're encouraging that within the team? That will make us to know where the conversation would start. And of course, you would have seen consequences. You would have seen probably team members are not even having conversation as they would normally again during your meetings and all that.
And make them aware of the impact.
and of course, at the same time, you just want to bring to awareness, like Doctor mentioned. The truth of the matter is, people are people, and none of us is 100% perfect. Perfection only exists in heaven. So when we see this kind of stuff, it's not something that would shock me as an agile coach. It's something that I'm sure I've experienced one way or the other and all that. And you cannot be prescriptive. You can't go one size fits all. That situation, what the consequences would be would be the area where the issue will be addressed.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question, though. Beautiful. Thank you so much. Doctor, you want to add to
We
it?
still
Ted
we still
and
have two more
Max.
questions. We still have two more questions.
Okay.
Tedler.
Yeah, thanks for the great presentation, Divine and Dr. Ann. So I have a question on in the chat where so yeah, are there any tools we can measure the psychological safety of the team, or like how do we boost if we like are there any tools or methods available, known methods?
Yes, we have a lot of tools that you can use. Some of those tools are also like the tools that you use for your retrospective, those collaboration tools. You can use that to be able to gauge the health of the team, like how are they doing, get the feel of them. So there are some games that you can play with them that will help them to be able to tell you where they are. And you can put together questions like surveys as well. Sometimes some people do that, send out anonymous surveys. So people just feel those things. They are more comfortable feeling it when they know it's anonymous. And that gives you an idea also of how they are and where they are with their thoughts. And if they are struggling. So some people will tell you, well, I don't like this culture here because I can't speak my mind, or I like this culture here, I'm able to speak my mind. So you can put together those surveys and use that to be able to gauge your team. And I don't know if anybody else wants to add to that, like if you have other tools that you have used that has helped you other than collaboration tools.
Of course, one of the major things to observation is very important as well. Observation is one of the major things you want to see, and like you said, you have you have survey, which is very important. These are the things I've used.
Okay, and Joe just put it in the chat. Yes, that's true. Comparative agility, they have a very good model that you can actually use. If you don't want to create it, yourself, you can use theirs to just assess your team to know how they are doing. And yeah, it's actually free with also safe scaled agile as well.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Max,
Thank
we
you for
have
your
Max's
question,
hand.
Okay,
Good
Max.
evening, everyone. Good evening.
Evening, sir.
Great topic. Great topic. And if you don't mind, as the Agile Austin president, I have to do a plug for Keep Austin Agile Conference, which has already been mentioned, but I'm sorry I was late. And what a great coincidence. We actually have a speaker also talking about psychological safety as the foundation for an agile transformation at the conference. Like, it's a whole business case study on the Merck pharmaceutical transformation. So very key topic that comes up again and again. And I have to say that as great as the visibility has been on this, it is unfortunate the lack of progress, I feel, in a lot of cases. Even, I don't know if it was mentioned, Google did the Aristotle project. And I'm not sure if you discussed it or not, but it was a huge initiative which they spent tens of millions of dollars to study like hundreds of teams. And the number one thing that was most important to teams was, before their compensation, their training, their development, was psychological safety. And what happens is not that there's a psychological safety threat at the team level, but from an organizational perspective, especially in America, where layoffs happen on a cyclical basis, a lot of people that sometimes I've worked with on transformations they see things that are wrong and they don't even speak up, like at the organizational level, right? People that are experts that know, because they don't want to get any spotlight put on them. They don't want any kind of a visibility that is not a positive one, because layoffs are just always there, or people get marginalized, and all of this that always happens. And this is like it's a really big impediment to really transforming the way we deliver value to customers faster and better in like an iterative way, and like in an agile way. What might you have seen that could possibly alleviate people's, like, psychological safety to be able to call out things at the organizational level in a very public way, if any?
Well, I have been, and you're rightly so, because before teams experience any issue with safety, it starts with the culture, it starts with the organization. And I'm sorry, I'm in the room, but I have seen, especially where I work currently, I've seen openly where it may be all hands meeting. Well, regular, normal employees ask straight up questions, and you're not letting go until they get the answer. And the leaders have to answer, because they have said that it's an open space. So we hold them to that, and they're held accountable. Then we open up and ask questions without any form. So I think while it's psychological, it can be an issue as a culture, right? It also depends on the direct leadership at that time or at that stage. For me, it has worked with that being very open, and it has created trust in my organization, even with the current instability in the agile space. So again, it depends on the organization, on the leaders, and them keeping to their words, and us holding them accountable to what they said they would do.
Yeah, and I think, that's spot on. If you have the leadership that has that kind of approach, has that kind of a vision, and setting that kind of a culture. Maybe I've just had the misfortune of working at organizations where that was not really the case, right?
Well,
But
I would agree. It's my first time. It was my first time experiencing it. I'm like, oh my God, wow, but it happened recently, and I'm like, that is great. Someone speaking up and the leader actually taking responsibility for that action, and well, yeah.
Awesome.
It is hard. Yeah.
Thank you. Any feedback from the speakers, or no, you'll pass on this one?
A hard one.
Thank you, folks.
Thanks, Max.
Thank you. I think you've just said it all. So without psychological
Can I
safety,
add one thing? Sorry,
yes,
can I add one thing? Sorry, I'm one thing that might be impactful is really if there's a strong change management in that organization, that really helps with the language and with the behavior of even leaders. So if there's a factor I feel that has helped, is having a strong change management team that helps coach leadership alongside with the agile coaches or the expert agile coaches on behaviors expected from those leaders. Right, ma'am? Any thoughts?
Yeah, I
Thank
think,
you, Chichi.
yeah,
Thank you
having
so
a
much.
systemic way to progress change could help when there's a lack of leadership in that. I could see that, Chi-Chi. Yeah, I'd agree with that.
At this point, I actually feel we've gone far past our time box. Thank you for
We have.
supporting, and also for giving us the opportunity to to be part of this journey and also to be a speaker on this platform. Really appreciate you. Thank you, ma'am, and thank you, everybody. And from
Thank
me,
you both so much. This was obviously a topic that a lot of people have a strong interest in, and you brought a lot to the table here for us to consume and think about. And thank you for sharing that with us. We really appreciate you. And thank you all for participating in the conversation. With that, I think we can wrap up for the night.
Yeah. For those who are asking for the information, it's going to be uploaded on YouTube, and you can get that information right there.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks all. Have a great night.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a
Thank
great
you
night,
so
everybody.
much. Take care.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.